Today will only happen once. That was on my mind while approaching Universal Epic Universe for my first time. I can revisit and re-ride as much as I want, but that very first visit is something I could never get back. Us theme park enthusiasts rarely get the chance to visit a theme park knowing very little to nothing about what's inside. A brand new park of this scale comes around only once in a blue moon, so I've been aggressively avoiding Epic Universe spoilers ever since it was just a pile of dirt. Seriously, apart from a peek inside the Epic Universe Preview Center, I've steered clear of any concept art, teasers, rumors, and leaks from the park. I've been very picky and wanted to see it for myself with fresh eyes. So, while the whole theme park community has been buzzing about Epic Universe, I've barely made a peep about it. That's not because I don't care, quite the opposite, trust me. I'm as excited as anyone about this new park, but I've just been avoiding spoilers, that's all. Well, the time is finally here. I visited Epic Universe during its technical rehearsal previews in April 2025, and the park definitely surprised me in a lot of ways. I'll get into the good and the not so good. Here are my first impressions of Orlando's newest theme park, Epic Universe. Moderate spoilers ahead as I'll review the rides, but won't get too specific. Entrance areas set the tone for any theme park. I waited outside Epic Universe's front gate for about an hour and a half before the park opened. It felt like Christmas morning. I woke up early and couldn't go back to sleep. I was that eager to pass through the stunning Kronos Tower, like I was about to listen to a new song by my favorite band for the first time. But I didn't know what to expect on the other side. I was just a few steps away from a hub with all new music, sights, and experiences. That portal leads to the park's main hub, Celestial Park, which is different than the Main Street USA style entrances in other theme parks. Celestial Park has a casual atmosphere that feels more like a third space, for example your local park or an outlet mall, than a theme park hub. That might sound strange considering Celestial Park is surrounded by roller coasters and fictional worlds, but it has a calming presence. To my surprise, Celestial Park is more soothing than stimulating. Its classy design fuses Art Deco with splendidly stellar designs. But Celestial Park left me wanting more. Its serene soundtrack didn't match my excitement level. I was expecting to be swept away, but I was underwhelmed. That wasn't until I remembered the message written on the front of Kronos Tower. Beyond this gate, find gardens green and epic worlds to fill your dreams. That's when it clicked for me. It's called Celestial Park. Celestial Park isn't supposed to be a shot of adrenaline, it's a classier hub that inspires wonder and helps guests pace themselves from one stimulating land to the next. Universal Orlando's website describes Celestial Park as a place where wondrous discoveries await among the lush greenery, tree-lined walkways, and dancing fountains. There's much more to it than that, I'm sure, but this is just my initial takeaway. I was expecting to be transported to a world like in Port of Entry at Islands of Adventure. However, Celestial Park is more subtle with its fountains, smatters of live music, living statue performers, and greenery. Speaking of plant life, I've heard some criticisms about Epic Universe's freshly planted greenery. With all that chatter, I was expecting pathetic little saplings and seedings around the park. For the most part, Epic Universe has decently mature plant life for a park that isn't even open yet. Sure, the trees need a few more seasons for some relief from the sun, but I didn't think Epic Universe was any sunnier than the other Orlando theme parks. Trust me, I value shade probably more than most theme park enthusiasts, and Epic Universe didn't bother me that much at all in that department. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised over Epic Universe's gorgeous landscaping. Not only is the landscaping pretty, but it's purposeful. For example, Celestial Park has some butterfly bushes that will attract the colorful, fluttery bugs during certain seasons. Dark Universe has bleak pines to add to the dreary environment, and Donkey Kong Country is ripe with tropical foliage. It's all very well planned out, all down to the cosmically trimmed topiaries of Celestial Park. Enough about landscaping, let's talk about the attractions. Stardust Racers is one of the more prominent attractions at Epic Universe, launching at 133 feet in the air on the edge of the park's central hub. Universal Orlando has been working with Intamin for its major additions recently, such as Jurassic World Velocicoaster and Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. However, for Epic Universe's twin coasters, Universal partnered with Mock Rides. If you're local or frequent Central Florida, you probably best know Mock Rides from coasters like Cobra's Curse or Slinky Dog Dash. Except Stardust Racers is in a different league. This set of dueling coasters is by far the most intense in the park, standing apart from the family coasters of Epic Universe. In my opinion, it's the perfect blend of intensity and pure fun. Stardust Racers is on the intense side, but it's not too intense for your average park goer. It has a pair of punchy launches for a max speed of 62 miles per hour, one inversion per track, and a generous amount of airtime. Honestly, the launch is so good, I bumped my head on my first ride because I wasn't expecting the extra little push. Side note, one of the launches was pure bliss when I rode this in the evening. Stardust Racers is a satisfyingly long coaster. To me, it's not as intimidating as Velocicoaster, plus it has a mix of great interactive moments with the other train. The onboard audio is euphoric. I kind of wish more of Celestial Park sounded like this. The trains shimmer in unison at night with their lighting package, which is a nice touch. Stardust Racers is a rarity in major theme parks nowadays, since the attraction isn't based on an existing intellectual property. It's not a Harry Potter or Nintendo ride, but it's an original attraction that is a star at Epic Universe. And now for a little bit of the bad, Stardust Racers is located near the park's designated smoking area. So the attraction's open air queue and station smelled like cigarette smoke during my visit. I don't mean this as a jab toward anyone using that area whatsoever, but I would expect Universal to plan that out a bit better. Overall, this duo is among the best coasters in Orlando, and I'm glad Universal has a dueling attraction once again. In the center Celestial Park is its other attraction, Constellation Carousel. This is a mesmerizing modern take on a classic merry-go-round, with charming figures, pleasant music, and the best scenery Celestial Park has to offer. The ride rotates on a few turntables while bouncing in sync like a well-rehearsed dance. The ride's mechanics vibrate slightly, but it doesn't take away from the experience, just something to point out. Constellation Carousel isn't supposed to be a headlining attraction, but it's a small delight in Epic Universe. More parks could use some sort of carousel. They usually have short waits and break up the day with a relaxing spin out of the sun. My first stop of the day, along with many other rope droppers, was Super Nintendo World. I was a 90s kid, and I'm sure a lot of you grew up around the same era with a Nintendo controller in hand. For me, Super Nintendo World is my Wizarding World. It's my Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. This is what I get hyped up for. So walking into that land for the first time was special. The reveal into the Super Mario Land section is stimulating, and the whole land feels alive with a saturation of moving elements, pulsing music, chirpy sound effects, in addition to a spectacle of peppy colors and designs. It's cliche to say, but Super Nintendo World does feel like stepping into a Mario game, and I had a lot of fun discovering all the Pikmin around the area. Super Nintendo World isn't unique to Epic Universe. It's been cloned in various Universal parks, starting with Japan, then Hollywood, and now Orlando. But that doesn't make it any less special. I'll set aside my Nintendo fandom for a second and admit the land feels very cramped, and that's even during this limited preview period. I can't imagine how overcrowded it'll be once Epic Universe levels up its capacity. But even though Super Nintendo World is small, it still has a lot of areas to explore. However, I probably won't want to wander around too much if it's elbow to elbow. It feels more like a video game level than a theme park land. Anyway, one last thing about this area before we talk about Nintendo's rides. The restrooms are so clever. I guess I won't spoil this in case you don't know yet, but I was very amused about the theming in the restrooms. Actually, all of Epic Universe had very nice and clean restrooms with some creative little touches. Okay, I shouldn't gush about the restrooms before talking about the main attractions, so let's get into my first impressions about the rides of Super Nintendo World. As I mentioned earlier, I grew up on Nintendo, but I specifically grew up on Mario Kart. This is probably my most played video game franchise, and I know a lot of families and friends out there share the same enthusiasm. Mario Kart is such an easy franchise to fall in love with, no matter how good you are at gaming or which generation you grew up in. That's why I think it would be hard, if not impossible, to mess up a Mario Kart theme park ride. The series is begging to be adapted into an attraction. Universal and Nintendo could have gone in a million directions with this ride and still got it right. It's a recipe for success, no matter how you go about it. Unfortunately, I think they somehow ended up finding the one way to mess up a Mario Kart ride. I hate to get so negative so early in this review, but Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge was one of my bigger letdowns of the day. The queue is cute. I had a lot of fun looking for Easter eggs, but the attraction was not for me. The ride makes use of augmented reality headsets for interactive gameplay. It's kind of like a real-life video game, except not a very good one. The AR technology looks tacky and demands way too much of your attention. Instead of looking around and enjoying the ride, you have to focus on turning the steering wheel at random points and tossing weapons at virtual drivers. The physical part of the attraction seems very well designed. It had some incredible moments and effects, so it's a shame riders are too preoccupied by the disappointing gameplay on the AR headset to appreciate anything else. I feel like the ride would be more enjoyable without the headset. That's my only gripe. To each their own though, I still think it's a well-produced ride that everyone should try at least once. Who knows, you might disagree with me and have a new favorite ride. I can't wait to give this another chance. As a massive Mario Kart fan, I desperately want to love this ride. Yoshi's Adventure is a nice little supporting attraction for Super Nintendo World. The Yoshi video games usually cater to a younger audience, so it makes sense the Yoshi ride is in the same style. I'm glad Epic Universe has family-friendly rides like this, which Universal hasn't always prioritized in the past. It's probably the most adorable ride in the park as an entry-level Omnimover with wholesome scenery. I didn't expect too much out of the Yoshi ride, nor do I have much to comment on, but I do have two small criticisms. The indoor-outdoor attraction is too bright. It travels along the sunny upper levels of Super Nintendo World, which looks great for guests on the pathway, but it makes it hard for riders to appreciate the animatronics and sets when the sun is glaring in your face. Maybe I wrote it at a bad time of day, but it's worth mentioning. My second criticism is the ride is very short. Like I said, I didn't expect much from the Yoshi ride, but just one more show scene would have made a difference. I think that's kind of a trend for Epic Universe's complimentary rides. This isn't the only one that feels too short. In fact, let's talk about another one now. Super Nintendo World has a second section called Donkey Kong Country, home to Nintendo's third ride, Minecart Madness. But let's hang out in Donkey Kong Country before talking about the coaster. This area is so energizing with the pounding drums and colorful jungle setting. It's chaotic in all the best ways, exactly how a Donkey Kong area should be. I don't need to go on and on about how much the Donkey Kong series meant to me on the Super Nintendo onward, but I can't overemphasize how much this land made me smile. This franchise always has fantastic visuals and even better music, which I've been listening to the entire time I've been writing this script. The land hit on all of that, and the ride was just as good. I'm sharing all of this a little out of order for the sake of being organized, but Minecart Madness was my first ride of the day. It was the first ride I ever did at Epic Universe, and it didn't disappoint. The coaster is a barrel of fun. Minecart Madness uses a unique boom coaster design. The ride vehicle is suspended over the track, leaving enough space to put a fake track between riders and the ride system. The coaster hops over gaps and obstacles just like the minecart levels in the Donkey Kong Country video games. Honestly, I was skeptical of the ride system. I didn't think the effect was going to be convincing, but it was pulled off incredibly well. Just like Yoshi's Adventure, however, Minecart Madness is just a tad short. Again, one more show scene or element would have made the ride that much better. For a low-capacity coaster with a slow-moving line, I'm afraid the ride feels too short to be worth the wait. Also, the ride system jostles around a lot. The farther riders are from the actual track, the bumpier a coaster is likely to be. Despite a few small flaws, Minecart Madness is still an enjoyable ride that I would definitely say is the best in Super Nintendo World, and just a tier below the very best of the best in Epic Universe. This is a must ride. It's not just fun, it looks good too. The various hops and splashdowns are, well, splashy when you're exploring Donkey Kong Country. That's the makings of a great land and an even better attraction. Universal went back to its roots with the second land I visited, Dark Universe. This little village called Darkmoor is themed to Universal's classic monster films, dating back to the early 20th century. I watched just under 30 of those movies, I wish I were exaggerating, prepping for this land, and every part of my being was fully prepared for Darkmoor. Dark Universe is as detailed as Universal's premier lands, such as the Wizarding World, with a reveal along the lines of Hogsmeade, and spectacles on the same level as Diagon Alley. Its grim European setting is kind of like the antithesis to Fantasyland. The entire area is coated in gloomy aesthetics, from its restraint of color to its dreary soundtrack by composer Danny Elfman. I went on a sunny day, but Darkmoor Village somehow felt like it was in the shadows of Overcast. Even the plant life has a muted look to it. Darkmoor has a few walk-around characters, such as Igor and a ghostly violinist haunting the town square. The Invisible Man snuck up on me and actually spooked me, just like a little slice of Halloween Horror Nights in April. Dark Universe has very well-themed pockets, but the land as a whole feels rather empty. You can easily shrug this off as Darkmoor being a remote village. It definitely has enough shrubbery to feel like a forgotten realm far from society, but Dark Universe left me wanting more. Fingers crossed this land gets an expansion someday. It could use a few more attractions or storefronts, but the little glimpse that exists is perfectly atmospheric. What Darkmoor may lack in quality, it more than makes up for in quality. This land is home to what I would consider the crown jewel of Epic Universe: Monsters Unchained: The Frankenstein Experiment. If you're watching this, you've probably heard all the hype about this ride or have been on it yourself. I heard rumblings too and was ready to have my mind blown, but it wasn't. I very much enjoyed myself, but I got off asking, that's it? Hold on, let me explain. Nothing, and I mean nothing on this earth could have compared to the hype I heard about this ride. Monsters Unchained is incredible. It's instantly among my favorite dark rides, but I fell for the unrealistically high praise. Luckily, I got the chance to ride Monsters Unchained 2 more times during my visit. With each re-ride, I fell in love with it more and more. I was underwhelmed at first, but that couldn't be further from how I feel about the ride now. Monsters Unchained is a very high quality attraction. I cannot emphasize that enough. The queue is a strong contender for the best themed space on Universal Orlando property. The pre-show sections made me gasp. Someone in there gives me Lord Darkanon vibes. That's not what made me gasp, but I just wanted to say it. Without getting into details, the ride itself is incredible as well. It's crisp. Unlike the chilling atmosphere of Darkmoor, Monsters Unchained is action-packed and fast-paced, being as intense as any other dark ride. Multiple scenes in this ride were among the best scenes of any attraction I've been on, if not the best. I'm having a hard time choosing my favorite moment, but all the scenes were very short. Like I said, it's fast-paced. I did think the ending was very anticlimactic, but I have since learned a major effect was not working during my visit. I'm curious how my opinion will change if and when that's running. I have my nitpicks about Monsters Unchained, but those are few and far between compared to everything else this ride accomplishes. The ride is not perfect, nothing is, but it's Universal at their very, very best. I hope I've been clear how excellent this ride is. I'd love to go into more detail, but do yourself a favor and ride this with as little spoilers as possible. Dark Universe also has a family-friendly spinning coaster, Curse of the Werewolf. This is another Mock Rides roller coaster, but much more gentle than Stardust Racers. I don't have too much to say about Curse of the Werewolf. It's meant to complement Darkmoor, and it does so very well. Curse of the Werewolf is pleasant for what it is and fits the mood of the Wolfman series nicely. It also has some spooky audio cues that can be heard from the pathway, adding to the atmosphere. Unfortunately, I would say this coaster is one of the handful of rides at Epic Universe that is too short. It's definitely fun and refreshing that Universal is building more entry-level roller coasters, but it could use more bang for the buck. That said, I'm glad it exists. I'm glad Dark Universe exists. About a month ago, I couldn't have cared less about the How to Train Your Dragon movies. I haven't had a reason to watch them until now. Well, of course I watched them all before visiting Epic Universe, and I say this completely unironically. I think that's the best trilogy I've ever seen. The final 20 minutes or so of the third movie is peak storytelling, I'm not kidding. Anyway, onto the land. Isle of Berk is what I would consider the most complete land at Epic Universe. Others might have better theming or rides, but Berk has a little bit of everything. This land has a coaster, complimentary rides, a show, meet and greets, a play area, and plenty of dragon activity along the pathways. Seriously, this land has just as much or more to discover and experience as any other area at Epic Universe. The initial reveal is breathtaking, the music is inspiring, thanks John Powell, and the area is so whimsically upbeat. Walking into this area for the first time was one of the few moments during my visit that gave me full body chills. It's that special. For the sake of time, I didn't ride Dragon Racers Rally or Fire Drill. I've experienced those ride models at other parks, and the lines were long for most of the day. Just a quick comment, the ride names in this land are confusing. I understand they may make sense within the story, but as a first-time visitor, I couldn't wrap my head around it. Listen, Dragon Racers Rally is the name of the Skyfly ride, not the roller coaster. Hiccup's Wing Gliders is the name of the roller coaster, not the Skyfly ride. And Fire Drill is the name of the water ride. All the ride names seem mixed up. Dragon Racers Rally sounds like the name of a roller coaster, and Hiccup's Wing Gliders sounds like the name of a Skyfly. At the very least, Fire Drill should imply it's a water ride. That's the end of my rant. Now onto the dragon attractions I got to experience. Hiccup's Wing Gliders, which I'll repeat is the roller coaster, not the Skyfly, is an Intamin family coaster. It has a similar thrill level to Curse of the Werewolf, but it feels more like a main attraction. This coaster is pure joy, well, mostly pure joy. The restraints are a tad uncomfortable, but Hiccup's Wing Gliders put me instantly in the best possible mood, and even got me a little misty-eyed. Thanks, John Powell. It's rare a coaster goes from delightful to triumphant and everything in between, but Hiccup's Wing Gliders does that and more. I will say some critics of Epic Universe have pointed out the park's sightlines are less than ideal. For the most part, I disagree. That critique has been blown out of proportion, but it's a valid complaint about this ride specifically. It doesn't stop it from being a terrific coaster. It's like a junior version of Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure, which I say as a compliment. Hiccup's Wing Gliders was my sleeper hit of the day. I luckily had time to watch Berk's stage show, The Untrainable Dragon. It's hard to review this without getting into spoilers, but it's amazing in the literal sense of the word. I'm looking up synonyms for amazing to describe the show, and this word popped up. Gosh wow boy oh boy. Well, I can say with certainty, The Untrainable Dragon is very gosh wow boy oh boy. This little mini-sode into the world of Berk has all the dragons you could want to see, plus enough gosh wow boy oh boy moments to make you shed a tear. Thanks, John Powell. Plus, I always welcome a chance to take a seat and enjoy refreshing air conditioning. Onto the final land at Epic Universe, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic. This area is of course as spectacular as Universal Orlando's other Wizarding Worlds. Hopefully you weren't expecting much of a review from me about this land. I cannot fully review this land until I fully experience it. I was not able to score a virtual queue for Harry Potter in the Battle at the Ministry. On the day I visited, the ride didn't open until 3 p.m. Because of that, the virtual queue situation was the Wild West. That was an incredibly frustrating and discouraging way to spend parts of my day. I wasted a good bit of my phone battery and mental battery refreshing the app over and over, and it was all for nothing. The process took away from my enjoyment of the day by adding a lot of unnecessary stress, but at least the ride is something to look forward to for my next visit. That's the nicest way I could put it. The line for the area stage show, Le Cirque Arcanus, if that's how it's pronounced, was very long, so I balked. The land was very nice though, as to be expected with Potter. I don't have much to say about the details as I'm not a devoted fan of the Harry Potter franchise, but it was gorgeous. I don't mean to be dismissive, a lot of care and attention obviously went into every detail. I would go on if I had more time to explore. If anything, it might be the best themed land at Epic Universe, which is saying a lot. As I walked toward the exit, realizing my first day at Epic Universe was in the books, I had an interesting mix of emotions. Part of me was ecstatic about the day, part of me was disappointed to be leaving so soon, even though I was there every minute from early park admission until close and then some, and part of me was let down by the reality of the park. Don't get me wrong, being there felt like a dream, but I bought into the hype. Like I mentioned about Monsters Unchained, nothing on this earth could have lived up to the unrealistic expectations I had for Epic Universe. That was completely on me. Universal created something special, no question about it. The resort is now one notch closer to the mouse down the street. Universal's newest park has a surprising amount of family attractions, along with the thrills Universal built its brand on. I haven't even mentioned the beautifully detailed portals which serve as the entrance to each land. They have gorgeous finishing touches with small inlays and in-your-face effects, and that level of detail extends to the lands as well. Each land is loaded with kinetic energy as set pieces, water features, and other elements spice up the scenery. All the team members were amazing, from everyone responsible for its creation to those there on a day-to-day basis. Epic Universe also has an incredible lineup of food offerings. All of it is fresh, both literally and figuratively. It's a level above typical theme park dining. I've already touched on the landscaping, but I have no problem complimenting that over and over too. But the park has a few issues. As I've said, some attractions feel too short, and some lands feel incomplete. For some reason, I felt like the restrooms were too spread out. I had trouble finding one in some stretches. I worry that could be an issue when the park runs at a higher capacity, but maybe that was more of me being a novice than anything. I'm also concerned the abundance of outdoor attractions could cause an issue during Florida's inevitable afternoon downpours. Epic Universe at this time still feels like a new park. This is just the first version. To be fair, it has just as much, if not more, to do than Orlando's other parks in their respective opening years. If it hasn't been obvious, I had a great time at the park, and look forward to many more trips in the future. I'm so appreciative to have the chance. It was definitely a privilege. I'm soaking in this moment in time as a theme park fan because who knows if this will ever happen again. It's so exciting. I actually went into the park with absolutely no plans to make this video, but it's been on my mind ever since. I barely pulled out my camera, but I could have easily spent the whole day filming and taking pictures. Epic Universe is simply epic. But don't take my word for it, go enjoy this park if you're able to. It is worth it. I feel like my visit was only the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to discover. But what are your thoughts? If you've been, tell me your favorite part of Epic Universe. If you haven't been, tell me what you're looking forward to the most. I'd love to hear about it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe here for more videos like this. Thank you, and until next time, stay amused.